Hey YouTube, it is Aaron here, and I am doing a shorter video than usual, but I'm going to go ahead and just get into it. Um, I'm going to be talking about neurodivergent people, and I made a short, and if you watch my short, here's the video. Neurodivergent people are not what's considered socially normal, I guess. I'm uneducated on this subject, to be honest. But with that being said, I'm going to speak on what little knowledge that I do have. I think it started off with the non-binary label of they, them, and you have things like a non-binary lesbian. Well, if you don't have a binary, how are you a lesbian? That's just one example of how it doesn't work. Or a non-binary gay person. Well, if you're not a man or a woman, how are you gay? If you're not a man or a woman, how are you a lesbian? It doesn't make sense. This is why the transgender community is seeing a decrease in acceptance because it's becoming more and more unrelatable. And when people are unable to relate to things, acceptance goes down. 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was transsexual people who had gender identity disorder. Now it's called gender dysphoria. And there are people in the trans community that are seeking hormone replacement therapy that don't have gender dysphoria. Why the hell would you go through changing your sex to the most extreme level that a human being can when you don't even have dysphoria? Dysphoria is crippling. How can I explain what dysphoria feels like to me, a transsexual woman? It feels like everyone can see through me. It is so painful. I feel like everyone knows everything I'm thinking. I feel invisible. I feel like everyone knows that I'm a man wearing female's clothing, and it's just awful. And I can't explain it. It's just so painful. If you don't have dysphoria, why the heck are you transitioning? I just can't relate. Maybe I am not progressive enough to understand that concept, but I have been on hormone replacement therapy for over a decade. And I've been attending transgender support meetings and meeting transsexual people for 15 years at least, going to groups. And they didn't have they, them pronoun people in those groups 15 years ago. It didn't exist. And if it did exist, a very, very, very small percentage of people were considered non-binary. I never met a non-binary person until I was somewhere in my mid-20s, and we have pronouns, neopronouns like ze, zer, or fey, fem. I don't know how to say it. Fey, self. The thing about these things is if you identify that way and that makes you happy, that's great. But do not expect society to understand or ever accept that, because it's just not culturally acceptable. It's not relatable. And there is a huge difference between a transgender woman who takes cross-sex hormones that truly identifies as a woman and suffers from gender dysphoria, so she takes HRT to alleviate her dysphoria so she can develop secondary sex characteristics of a female. She was born natal female. This is all hypothetical, but me was born natal male. So I was born natal male, and I have taken cross-sex hormones to develop female secondary sex characteristics. I cannot change the fact I was born biologically male. I will always be a biological male. And if more transgender people were to use this narrative, we would be accepted. 10 years ago, being transgender was being a lot more socially accepted than it is since 2020 forward. Like, once 2020 happened, it's completely unrelatable. Children shouldn't participate in adults' world. It's like cigarettes and alcohol. In my in my state, you have to be 21 or up to smoke or drink. I feel the same should be for transgender medicine. It's an adult's thing, and I don't think someone under the age of 18, especially, is able to make a commitment to change their body so drastically and basically sterilize themselves. And lastly, there's a huge difference between someone like me, and I am a legal female, using the women's restroom, and some guy that's in there in a dress and a boner. There's a huge difference. And if most people can see the difference between the guy wearing a dress with a boner in the female's bathroom and a trans woman who almost 99% of the people would never know she by myself or she was trans because we look like females. And it's I hate to see what I'm getting at is I really hate to see acceptance in my community plummet. I remember it was progressively getting more and more and more acceptable. Now there is so many anti-trans bills because the trans community has shot themselves in their own foot and they're hemorrhaging out. And we are not accepted in society because of these woke mindsets of neurodivergent people who want to be who are a singular person identifying with a plural pronoun. It's not grammatically correct, and the only way that I could use they them is I'm on the interstate, someone cuts me off. I don't know who's driving. They cut me off. That's the only time I could ever see using they them for a singular person because you don't know and it's something real quick and there's thousands of cars on the road. But when it comes to a singular person, if just because you have green hair and a septum piercing does not make you a man or a female or a they them, um, you are what you were born as, and if you have gender dysphoria, you will do anything you can in order to look like the sex that you identify as because gender dysphoria is painful. It's so painful. And for someone like myself who has been in the community actively 10 plus years on hormone replacement therapy, seeing my own community bastardized by and um, seeing all sorts of bad stuff happen in my community and decrease in acceptance because the singular persons are trying to be plural people and cisgender society can't relate. They can relate a lot more when someone is a transsexual like myself who takes cross-sex hormones to alleviate my gender dysphoria so I can live as if I were born female in society. I wasn't born female and I never will be biologically a female. And if more trans people had that narrative, we would be a lot more accepted, but we're not. So I hope this video helps and it talks about the absurdity of plural pronouns for singular people as well as neurodivergent and um, things that are just not relatable to the average person. Thank you.